Okay, so took a couple weeks off from doing the podcast, but I'm back. I had to kind of get an idea of how I wanted to keep doing things and get some feedback, which I have gotten some constructive criticism. And so, start things off. It's August now. It was July last time we spoke, and this is episode 4. I'm still calling it the Nicole Howard Show. Again, I will reiterate on the fact that everyone called me Nicole Howard at 2 different schools. The second one made more sense because there was 4 Nicoles in within at least 2 grades, maybe just one, and so that could be part of that. But yeah, or people just called me Howard, which I was fine with. Like I said, I don't like to be called Nikki. If you want to be called that, that's fine. I don't have a problem with other people called that. I don't like it. That stems back to our conversation and story about the fact that my cousin's dog was named that. I've already gone into that. I won't do that again. Anyway, so I'm back. The weather is still warm. However, it's not as brutally warm as it was. I have no idea how you guys live in some of these warm climates like Florida and Texas. I mean, they're great places. I like going to Florida a lot when it's winter for us and you guys. Um, but as far as summertime, I don't know if I can handle it. It's pretty intense. I mean, yeah, people have air conditioning inside, and that's fine. But you know, if you have central air, it's probably a little different because you're not listening to an air conditioner run all the time. First world problems. That's I sound like a brat here. I'm lucky I have air conditioning. I have one of those floor units. I used to have one that was my landlord's put in. Genius move on their part. The it's a wall unit, and then its exhaust would go out in my garage. Well, the exhaust is hot, so in order to run it, you had to open the garage door, or the garage would practically explode from the heat, and it was a lot. And which even by opening the door, then let the outside heat in, which caused that wall to become even warmer. Because normally, when the door's just shut, it stays nice and cool in that garage. And so then that kept my place warm, so it was a vicious cycle. Finally, that thing was about to fall through the wall. So I bought myself a floor unit, which is lovely. But they are loud. If you have them right in the middle of your room, but that's where I had to put it. Because then the tubes go out of a window. If anybody's looking for an air conditioner and can't just have a normal window unit, I suggest you get one of them though. I mean, they're probably more loud to me because I have kind of a interesting sense of hearing. I had a lot of ear infections when I was a kid. I had like 8 in one winter in my left ear, quite a few in my right. When I was 8 years old, I had to have my adenoids removed, tubes in my ears, tonsils removed. That was all done up here after we moved up here from downstate. Which I found out also after telling my friend this story, her mom's tonsils grew back after having them removed. That is a thing. So she had to have them removed twice. I don't know if they can grow back a second time. But in any case, my left ear has like terrible hearing. If I try to talk on the phone with my left ear, I can barely hear what people are saying. But when it comes to other sounds, like air conditioners or your engine making a sound the mechanic swears isn't happening, but you know it is because you can hear it in your left ear until it gets loud enough that he does hear it. Yeah, I hear stuff like that. I have all these things, and then I got COVID nose after I got COVID, among another condition I talked about with the swelling of my face once a month. I can smell stuff way better than I used to be able to smell. And I think when it's like this weekend, I got a neighbor, and their washer and dryer had to be put in my garage because their unit's not big enough. And it was the deal the landlord made to get them to move in. It's a long story. And as you know, my landlord's my parents. So maybe I didn't disclose that. Technically, yeah, my parents own the building that I am renting from. The smell of their detergent. It's just chemical smells, anything. I mean, I like the smell of my body wash in my laundry soap. But other ones, if it's kind of not a healing smell, is so potent to me. And all I can think of when these smells hit me or sounds, I feel so bad for animals because dogs have such a better sense of smell than us. People who like to load their houses with Febreze plug-ins and have a couple dogs, please think about the animals because it's so much more potent to them. I mean, food tastes different when I have all these smells going on, and I don't know. So I try and put myself in, I guess, their shoes. I think I've discussed that. I'm an animal person more so than anything. I don't know if I've told this story. I will tell it again. I'm going to say this right now. This is going to be one of my stories in my recordings. However, when I still go, which hopefully next week I have this figured out, live and have conversation, I'm sure I will tell the story again on one of the topic days. I don't think I already told it. I need to probably write this stuff down. Note to self. I don't know what brought the subject up, but this is a couple of years ago, probably 10 years ago. Sitting down at my parents' house on the lake when they still had their house down there. My mom and sister. And maybe we were talking about Big Bang Theory. I'm not sure because Sheldon, I think that's what sparked it. Constance says, I'm not crazy. My mother had me tested. Oh, yeah, that is what sparked it. And my mom said, well, we had to have you tested, which just brought so much joy to my sister's face. And I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean, what do you mean you have me tested? To see if I was crazy. When? Said, well, when you were at the age when kids start speaking, so under 2 years old, and I think I've said this, my first memory is when I was not quite 2 at Christmas time. Anyway, so this would be right around that time, though, because it was still that house that we lived at in Missouri temporarily when we left Michigan. And because my dad was working for GM. And apparently she said, well, you were speaking, but you weren't speaking a language any of us could understand. And I said, okay, well, what does that mean? She says, well, you were meowing and you were woofing like a dog, meowing like a cat, woofing, and neighing like a horse. And that's all you did, all the time. I said, oh, by now my sister's fallen off her chair. This is when her and I were still speaking. And I said, well, what happened? What did the doctor say? So we took you to a specialist, and he asked what you were around all the time. And I said, pretty much me, because my dad was on the road for sales, and the animals. And he said, you need to get her around some kids. She'll start talking. So as it so happened, my cousin, August, and his mom, Tammy, moved in a couple weeks later, less than a month later, I believe. And within a very short amount of time, days, I started talking. And then I never stopped. So be careful what you wish for. Because my nickname became Chatty Cathy. Oh no, not Chatty Cathy. Chatterbox. It was Chatterbox. So that's another inspiration for doing the podcasting, because I do have the gift of gab and a lot of things to talk about, and a lot of stories and input on things going on. So long story short, when Sheldon says I'm not crazy, my mother had me tested, I can also say I'm not crazy, my mother had me tested. As I said, I love Big Bang Theory. Now that was somewhat of a, I mean, it was a childhood test. I mean, yeah, I guess it does make you think your kid's crazy when they're only speaking animal, I suppose. Anyway, although I've got to say, I think all women have a little touch of crazy in them. Let's just admit it. Just a little bit. And guys, I think some of you like that little touch in us. The ones, though, that are real calm and never exhibit any symptoms of, I don't want to keep using the word crazy, but symptomatic of some personality quirks, those ones actually scare me more than anything because it's sitting under the surface and they keep it buried down. Sometimes you just gotta let it out in little streams so that you don't explode. A big one. And maybe I'm also a little more open than others. I think some women keep it in and then just let the crazy out to their friends or something. But yeah, we've all got a little taste of it. Plus, we've got these hormones going through us. Men have hormones though too. Men have a monthly cycle. I don't care what you say. There are any guys I've spent a lot of time around. There's like a certain couple of days where it's like, what is wrong with you? And they have nothing. I'm just hungry. I'm like, okay, sure. Well, but we can all. There will be days where we can talk about stuff like that. Where I'm going to focus on that subject. But in any case, so yeah. Other things going on. Like I said, I live out in the country, which I do like. There's some apartments in town. Actually, I recently figured out how you actually get to them. I've always seen them and thought, oh my god, it would be a cute little place to live. It's right on this little creek that comes off of the main river. I guarantee it's a fortune, but you're still next to the road, listening to traffic, and I know you drown. You eventually you don't hear it anymore. I mean, even when I went to New York City each time, the first night, all you can hear is horns. But after a couple nights, you don't hear it anymore. But I do enjoy the country, and tonight I had 25 deer standing in front of me, 2 babies that were absolutely adorable. This morning there was 2 turkeys, male and female, with their 2 baby turkeys, which were they're cute for a couple weeks, and then they turn into turkeys. And it's like I just like to be able to see that. In fact, I remember, as I said, I'm in recovery. When I went to go get help with my issues in Grand Rapids, at the place I was located, all of a sudden everybody ran to the back of the house, and I was like, what's going on? They're like, you got to see this. I'm thinking there's like a bear out there, or somebody's uh, some incidents happening, explosions, I don't know. And I'm like, what are we looking at? And they go, there's a turkey out here. I said, a turkey? So who cares? You guys never seen a turkey before? And they're like, not live, just maybe Thanksgiving when we have it for dinner. I'm like, oh, wow. And yeah, they were like, and this thing had climbed on somebody's house. It was all by itself, which is kind of unusual to see turkeys alone. We have one around here that's always alone. We don't get it. But yeah, they were very impressed by this turkey. I've seen people get excited over squirrels, like brown squirrels. I guess brown squirrels, they are kind of rare. Most of our squirrels around here nowadays are black. I'm not sure what that's about. Brown squirrels are less common than they used to be. We have a place here in town next to the airport. It's been in the newspaper. I have personally seen them in 2001 area when I was doing this career tech school / high school, so I could basically turn high school into open campus. I had enough credits to graduate early, and I didn't want to because I didn't want to miss prom and all this stuff. And plus there were other conveniences to stay at the school, because at the time my boyfriend lived 10 minutes away from it, and that was the older person I refer to than me that I dated. So it was a means to accomplishing getting away with something. But in any case, so which I said I'll go off in tangents, but I'll loop it back in. We would drive ourselves. We just had to be, we went to school. Class started 8:15. The career tech center didn't start till 9:30, and it was about a 40-minute drive one way. So we had a little free time, and then afterwards we got out of the career center at like 11, between 11 and 11:30, and had to be back at school at 12:15. So we had, again, a little bit of playtime. And actually that was just lunchtime, so really lunch ended around 1:45. So yeah, it was open campus. Ooh, there was this neighborhood, and they're like, have you ever seen the white squirrels here? I said, what? You mean like albino? Nope, they're not albino. Albino animals have pink eyes. An actual white animal will have traditional color of eyes that any of their species have, which with squirrels is brown. And sure enough, they took me down and we saw them immediately. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's white squirrels. You're kidding me. They're all over the place. And then a couple months later, they're features in the newspaper. So uh, that one's a rare one. But we actually had to have the power company come out here because about 4 years ago, we kept having the squirrels kill themselves basically. And I don't think they were truly suicidal, which is not a joking matter. But they did seem to, and city squirrels are way smarter than country squirrels, and we've got country squirrels. These squirrels, when they would be running away from whatever they were running away from, possibly dogs. My family's got a German Shepherd, and then my siblings got pit bulls, and we've got a Chihuahua, and the Chihuahua he'll go after stuff too, even though most of it's bigger than him. And then there's another mixed breed dog, but they kept climbing. They'd go up the power telephone line, whatever you want to call it, and get to the top and bzz, shoot themselves 14 feet off the pole and hit the ground, and they were done. And they did so many, and then it would take out stuff around here, and the power company was sick of having to come out and fix it, so they actually have a squirrel box for other people that have this ongoing problem. And yeah, so the squirrels can't hit that anymore if they run up there. Of course, this is the same power company that for years and years, every day around 2 in the afternoon, our power would zap for about 10 seconds, just long enough for your clocks to have to be reset and everything to go off long enough to have to, you know, restart everything. And when you'd confront them, they'd say, well, it's squirrels. They get into whatever is producing the power. And it's like finally we go, every day these squirrels know to jump on your energy output building facility at roughly 2 in the afternoon. Yeah, every day. So anyway, they know I guess a lot about dealing with squirrels. Back to my original thought process here, though. So we've got, I said, all the deer out in the country, the horse. I actually had someone come out here and just kind of, this place years ago was haunted. This is when my parents were still down at the house. I kid you not. We're talking full blown haunting. The Taps is the show on one of the channels, History Channel, Discovery, and Taps is all over the country. One of the members, she had been in Taps. She was down in Midland at this time at the Paranormal Society down there. And this is a big one. I mean, I researched the biggest ones in Michigan. She came up with a team because of our issue twice. Because the first time, and the first team she brought, they were a little novice at the whole cleansing. And the one wouldn't even give us all of our footage and evidence of what had occurred. And it didn't work. It just pissed off everything. So it got more active than it had been. So then the second time they came, that's what did it. And it was more professional team with more experience. So we've had issues here. So I had someone come out and do, you know, just like the cleanse before, only this was more of a person that does. I don't want to use the word shaman. Shaman's not quite the right word, because you have to be usually part of a tribe for all that. But still, similar thought process and type of procedure. Because something that I mentioned my horse being injured. He just kept having injury after injury after injury, and stuff just was going haywire around here. And I remembered every time things start getting active like that, I have to have him come out. Because it's happened 2 other times since I've been sober and living up here, where I've had to bring him out because all kinds of chaos started happening. For instance, when I found out I have MS, the day that I had woken up and my vision was gone in my left eye, we have a massive thunderstorm while I'm sitting at the doctor's office, which blew out my TV, blew out my direct TV. Then we have this bird outside that was apparently not taking care of her babies, whose babies kept jumping down off of the overhang. So then I had to, dealing with all that in the same day. lots of stuff happening at once, and other stuff had gone on prior to that. And then a couple years later, my refrigerator goes, and I get this crazy thing with my face and an infection in my cheek, which took months to take care of, and I think another TV went. So called him back out. So yeah, with all these things going on with my horse, I said, and it's a different person, same place but new owner, and I felt a lot better to have him come out. But yes, I'll talk about the hauntings a little bit. We would have things like um, sounds go on all night. I set out and I recorded them, and it sounded like there was a party going on in this house, and then the cats would start yowling. And when the team came, we had all the cats locked in one bedroom because we wanted to at least get that room done, um, get one room done, and then we were going to move them out and put them where they could go. So we go in there to check the bedroom, and the camera, first of all, the cat bed's thrown across the room. Cat didn't do that. And the cameras, while they're in there, were picked up, turned, set back down, and the cameras were taped to what they were sitting on, the cabinets. So that was a little peculiar. Before we went back in there, we have a voice of a lady and her daughter saying, it's it's safe in here. And then she says, and the little girl giggles, and then she says they're coming, and that's when we open the door and walk back in. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. We had, they kept picking up on this guy, like there was a real guy there spying on us. And are you kidding me? I mean, there was somebody we discovered camping in the woods the year before, but for a few months. This was different. Like, this is a person watching us. Well, as it actually turns out, the spirit watching thought he was alive, and he had confined this woman and her daughter. They picked up on, and then we end up getting footage, of sound audio footage of a woman and her daughter. And I can't remember if we had any pictures of that, but we did get inside my sister's room the image on infrared of a man with a army cut, his head shaved. One second it was the investigator lady that came, and the next second it's this totally different head. And it's like, who is that? And in the background, on multiple cameras, we caught this 1950s pickup truck sitting outside the windows facing the house. And the first time they came, we were all standing there, and the team said, "Do you have a road next to your house?" They showed up in the middle, at night in the winter to start the whole the whole weekend of taking care of things. And I said, "No, why?" So they didn't know exactly the fact that we were at the end of a driveway. There was nothing except for a lake right next to us, and our driveway wrapped around the house, but then it was yard and lake. So, no, why? And all of them said, "We just saw headlights go by." And we checked immediately the night vision cameras, and sure enough, you see a truck go right by the window, 1950s vehicle, as if there was a road there. There had been a road at one point that went around the lake. So in the second time they came, here's these headlights, same exact kind of truck sitting there facing. I got goosebumps again. The inside of my siblings' downstairs bedroom window. And then on another camera, we catch the same truck sitting out in the middle of the lake. It's a smaller lake, probably 70 acres, fishing lake. And here's this truck just sitting there, and all of a sudden it's watching the house, and it backs up, and it goes up into the sky. And this is while we were doing all of our, and we had holy water, and I want to say sage. Yes. And so the women and the daughter were let go. He finally understood he was no longer alive and moved on. There's a Native American. The Native American, his wife died on the property years and years and years, hundreds of years ago, but he likes it here. He likes the horses, so he's fine. We had some, though, other stuff that was a little bit more intense, that they just did the best they could to keep it off the property, basically. So we put some protection around it, and that's where we have to keep vigilant with keeping up with it. And I know some of you watching this, I might lose some of you on this, but that's not going to be the highlight of this podcast, is talking about ghosts and paranormal, although I do believe in aliens and UFOs, and I'll tell you a story next time about that. Uh, in any case, it was pretty amazing that the second they finally oh, and the reason we did that, and this is what prompted the horse thing, the logic behind it is because our my mom's Newfoundlands just kept getting bladder infection after infection after infection, and their bladders just it didn't matter what the vets they spent thousands and it was just insane. And after they finished in the second trip and everything just felt lighter, the vet actually called us like a month later and said, "Are you going somewhere else?" Because we were there so often. It was very odd for us to not be in there all the time. And he said, "No." I said, "Well, what's going on?" We said, "Dogs aren't getting them anymore." And he told them what we did, and they were blown away. And yeah, so it was a pretty crazy time. On other news, oh, so I've got a new neighbor. The landlords had an apartment they were living in while they built their house. They now are renting that out, and I've met her. She's nice. It's an adjustment. Like I said, now they have a washer and dryer in my garage, but uh, it was a little bit of I don't like people touching my stuff or in my area. I just like my privacy. So, and my dad had to be in the garage getting things ready for her for days on end, and I don't know. Yeah, he'd start the project and then have to go to town. He goes to town like 4 times a day. I don't know what he does, but he did go to Menards a lot. I have to go to Menards. You were just there. In Home Depot. But they're all moved in, so, poof. Uh, as far as, I don't want to focus too much on politics. Right now, stuff going on, trying to get Washington back under control. I totally understand it. There's all the craziness with the gerrymandering, redistricting. It's supposed to be done every 10 years. They're doing it every 5. I kind of think stick to what you're supposed to do every 10. If that's how you should do it, then do it that way. Jump in the gun. But it's been, I guess, unfairly done. And actually, the Democrats have gerrymandered the crap out of several states. I mean, there's a couple out there, I might have said this last time, that have no Republican seats. It's just crazy. And so now California's fighting back. I am not so much really too perturbed by all of this. It'll work itself out the way it works out. I get more uh, discussing the politics where it gets me revved up is when I see some of the other stuff going on out there with it's just some of the crazy chaos going out there where people are getting injured and people are just ignoring that it's happening and there's a lot of crime out there, a lot of crime. So that's what they're trying to deal with in Washington right now. Uh, and then I've said this before. I think that it was nuts, all the stuff going on with the men playing female sports, and a lot of these guys that were playing, not a lot, but there was people saying, oh, I thought of as a woman, and it was a guy who had a girlfriend, and they didn't have any sex change stuff going on. Some of them, yes, they did, but again, I don't. You're so young, especially the kids they were doing this with. It's just you don't know what you want until you're even 18. I thought at 18, I'm like, oh yeah, I know it all now. I was wrong. Here's an example of not know what you want in your kid. When I was a kid, I thought Michael Jackson was gonna be with me someday. He was the best. I was absolutely infatuated with Michael Jackson. Still has great music, but I can honestly say I have absolutely no interest in ever being with him. So you don't know what you want in your kid. So that's just some of the political stuff that I might bring up in the future, but I don't want to drag this on and on. I think everybody should enjoy. It's August, it's the middle of August. It's happening quick. So enjoy the summertime. I'm gonna try and have a live one here in a couple days. This is episode 4. Like I said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys are enjoying my stories and conversation. I like to talk, but I like a lot more when people are talking back with me. So we'll see how this goes. Thank you very much. You guys have a great night, great day, whatever time you're watching this. Thank you.